Recording in progress.
Sorry for the feedback. Let's see. Can you guys hear me? Yes. Is that terrible echo gone? Yes. Okay.
Christina, can you hear me?
I can. Hi, Judy. How are you?
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Can anybody else hear me?
I
Pam,
can hear you.
Judy, I can hear you, Judy.
Judy, I think there might be an issue with you because other people can hear me.
Hey, Christina, I tried to log in on my iPad and it's not working. So I had to go to my computer. I don't know what the deal is.
It looks like, I mean, there's a lot of people joining, so I don't
No,
think.
I mean, I'm in. I just letting you know if somebody complains that I don't know what's going on, but I'll just reverse. I'll use my iPad for reference and my computer for the meeting. But
I was able to log in on both my laptop and my iPhone.
I hear you until now when I put my earphones on.
Oh, well, there you go. That's good.
no, it doesn't want to let me do video though. Try it now. Oh, there we go.
Mm. Okay, it is 7 o'clock. So I will call the meeting to order. Good evening, everybody. Um, let's see, there's a few more people coming in. So it is 7 o'clock and I'm calling the meeting of the Board of Finance to order. Or, and we will start with roll call. And we can start with myself, Christina Davis, I'm present. Paul Varga,
Here.
Judy Austin,
Here.
Pam Summers,
Here.
Keith Lipker,
Here.
Tim Rhodes, Tim Rhodes. All right. Oh, wait, I just admitted Tim. Let's give him a second to come online. Tim, can you let us know that you are here?
Can you go in the other room?
All right, let's go to the alternates. Kayla Plaggy.
Here.
Hi, Kayla. And Rob Chernock. I think I saw Rob join. Rob, are you present? Unmute if you can. Also, Tim, are you present?
I am
Tim?
present. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you, Tim.
Perfect.
All right. I'm just going to look at this list and see if I see Rob.
Mine just keeps locking up. I don't know what's going on.
I see Ron, but I don't see Rob. Okay, so I think that Rob is not present. And Val Pepin, which is her status is a little confusing at the moment. So we'll talk about that under communications. Val, I don't know if you're present. She said she might join, but okay. All right. Moving along. For communications, first off, before I get into, there's quite a bit of communications before I get.
My laptop crashed it.
Paul, we can hear you.
Okay, that's good. I'm trying to turn my video off, but because apparently I'm having an issue. But as long as I can hear you and you can hear me, I'm good.
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Okay.
You might want to mute for the moment because I'm going to talk for a while.
I can't. That's the problem. It like literally locked up, so I don't know what's going on. So
Okay.
I just won't talk.
Okay. Um, okay. Lost my train of thought. Okay, here we are. Yes. So, first off, I just want to apologize that we're meeting on a Friday. We were supposed to meet yesterday, but the notice, we missed the deadline for the notice for the meeting due to a series of email errors that were not intentional. And so I appreciate everybody's flexibility in having this meeting this evening so that we could stay on schedule with our very, very tight budget schedule. So thank you everyone for your flexibility and the fact that we're on Zoom. I realize this is a pain, but I am in Boston for my daughter's 3-day dance competition. I've been up since 6 a.m. I've done a lot of hair and makeup today. So my patience is pretty much done. So just be warned. I'm in a great mood.
Great. When I have to present. Thank you.
Exactly. I'm going to do my best, guys, but just know
It's okay.
it's been a long day. Okay. Okay, so communications. We had a lot, so I made a list here. So first off, after our last meeting, we did have a conversation about conflicts of interest, and 2 issues did come up. One is a standing issue, not new, that we have a Board of Finance member, Paul Varga, who is also the fire chief of the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department. We back in 2024 had asked for a town attorney opinion on how we handle that. And the town attorney at that time in 2024 said, Paul can vote on the general government budget, but he can't present the fire department budget to the Board of Finance, and he cannot, and this is a quote, partake in any Board of Finance discussion or decision specifically directed toward the proposed AVFD budget. We asked the town attorney if this decision still stands, which is what was requested on February 21st, and the town attorney said that that opinion still stands. So that rule has been in place since 2024, and it is still in place today. We also asked after our last meeting, because it came to light that Val Pepin, who is a Board of Finance alternate, is also a paid deputy registrar of voters for the town, which means she gets a salary from the town or compensation from the town. Initially, the town attorney said the same rule applied to Val, meaning that she could vote on the general government budget, just not specifically discuss the registrar of voters budget. But then in a later communication after hearing from the first selectman where a specific ordinance was pointed out, the town attorney came back and said, and I quote, "We believe that 9-2010, which is the ordinance, would apply, and Valerie Pepin would have to choose between her position as deputy registrar and Board of Finance member." Valerie subsequently sent an email and said she was going to resign from the Board of Finance. Now, as of, I believe, yesterday, Val had not submitted her resignation officially. Oh, and Paul said he totally lost the meeting. Give me 1 second, guys. And you try to rejoin. Okay. All right. Paul's trying to rejoin. I can keep going while he does that. So just FYI, I don't know if Val has officially resigned, but I don't think we're in a position where we need to seat an alternate. So I think the point is moot. But I just wanted to give everybody an update on where that stands.
Anna,
Yes, Catherine.
when she does resign, we have 21 days to hold a town meeting to fill the slot.
Right.
Just so you know.
Good point. So it will be more to come on that as we work through that. Oh, I have to let Paul back in.
Christina, I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Judy.
So let me understand this correctly. It's because she's a paid employee. Now, if you had family members that were paid employees, does that also fall under the same?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
The statute is pretty clear.
Okay. Yep. So we can, any other questions on that? Okay. And Paul, were you able to join?
I was. Can you hear me?
We can. Yep.
All
All right. Okay, going back to communications, we received the general government budget and capital improvement budget on February 21st. The Board of Finance submitted questions on Monday, March 2nd, and we received answers this evening. And I believe those went out to all Board of Finance members and alternates. We also received earlier this week, excuse me, a letter from the superintendent, Cindy Ford, regarding issues around special education funding. She asked if we could include the Board of Finance as endorsing the letter. I replied that it would have to be brought to the Board of Finance for review at our meeting next week because we have a very full agenda this evening. And she opted to remove our name and send the letter without our endorsement due to time constraints. I just wanted to let people know that that was a request that came in that we weren't able to fulfill. We also received secondarily the library budget, which was distributed to the Board of Finance members. There's also been some communications with Chris Abakoff and Sherry Much regarding getting our notice for the public hearing, the budget public hearing. I think we will likely hold that at Knowlton Hall again this year. So I'll probably bring that notice to the board at our next meeting to review. I also received an email from Luther, who is who's a treasurer for the board for the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department. And I did want to read his letter, which I'll do in public comment. So that's it for communications. And like I said, I'll read Luther's communication under public comment. So next up, we can move on to approving minutes of the February 19th, 2026 meeting. Hold on, there are a couple of people I gotta let in the meeting. Oops. Okay. Would someone make a motion to approve the February 19th, 2026 minutes?
I move.
I second.
Okay, so just for our note taker, and ooh, I didn't verify. Haley, you're here, right? Taking minutes, I hope. I see her name, so. So Pam Summers made the motion and Judy Austin seconded. Is there any discussion on these minutes? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, great. Next up is public comments. I'd like to read Luther's communication first, and then we'll open it up to others. I did distribute this to the board, excuse me, to the Board of Finance members via email. But for the members of the public, since Luther wasn't able to join, I'll read this. It says, "Dear Ashford Board of Finance members, I am unfortunately unable to join the meeting in real time due to prior commitments. I did, however, want to take the opportunity to communicate some thoughts regarding the budget for the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department in the upcoming fiscal year. I'm an active volunteer firefighter EMT with the department, where I also fulfill the role of treasurer on the board of directors. The department held a board of directors meeting this past Tuesday to discuss the materials being presented at the meeting tonight and to address the list of questions that have been submitted from the Board of Finance. I would like to thank the Board of Finance for taking the time to conduct a thoughtful review of the fire department budget. And as a taxpayer in town, I hope that the same level of scrutiny is applied to every line item throughout the process. While I am unable, oops, sorry, lost my page here. While I am unable to participate in the meeting as the treasurer of the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department, I would like to assure the Board of Finance that the department is careful and deliberate in both its spending and presenting the budget for the upcoming fiscal year. The costs associated with the budget you have received represent a long overdue adjustment to the manner that the department operates. These adjustments will result in a department that is able to conduct its role in the community in a safer, more attentive capacity, with continued support from volunteer members and paid staff. In reviewing the questions posed by the Board of Finance, there appears to be an underlying theme that questions the pay rate and need for benefits for our paid staff. I would encourage the Board of Finance and leadership from the town to reflect on what roles that are currently providing such critical services to the town are being asked to do so with no benefits and for such a low hourly wage. Given what we as a community ask for our firefighter EMTs on a daily basis and the constant potential for exposure to risk or harm, I think that as a community, we can fund a reasonable total compensation package for this service. On a final note, as the Board of Directors was compiling the responses to the questions for the Board of Finance, it was also communicated to us that the Department Chief, Paul Varga, is being denied his right to represent the department to the Board of Finance through this process. It strikes me as a disservice to the Board of Finance and a disservice to the Board of Finance, the AVFD, and the town in general, that the person with arguably the most ability to answer questions directly is being excluded from this process. I understand that the town had their legal counsel develop an opinion that supports excluding Chief Varga from the process. However, seeing as there is absolutely no possible personal gain to be had, I am unable to understand how there could be justification for this measure. In a time where getting citizens to volunteer for their community in any capacity is difficult at best, it is shameful that the town is discriminating against Chief Varga for volunteering across multiple platforms. Thank you for your time and for the service that you as a board provide to the citizens of Ashford. And that's Luther. Does anybody know his last name? I don't have it in front of me.
Brauch, Brauch.
Thank you. Okay. So that's Luther's communication or public comment. Would anybody else like to make a public comment? And if you could do the hand raising thing, and then I will call on you. I see an M.A. Varga 33. Would you like to make a public comment? And I would ask that we try to keep it 2 minutes or less. Thank you. Please state your name and your road.
Hi, good evening. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
My name is Michael Varga, Zychek Road in Ashford. I have a letter here from the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department. For context, I'm an EMT with the department and the assistant treasurer. So me and Luther work on some of those duties together. Just have a quick letter to read from the department. It says, the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department would like to take a few moments to provide some clarity about its funding request and to provide some information regarding the proposed budget. The fiscal year 2026 to 2027 budget for the fire department is a significant increase when compared to previous years. With no scheduled opportunity to address the Board of Finance directly, the department feels that it is necessary to highlight some of information about the request. Specific answers to Board of Finance questions were provided to the Board of Selectmen as requested. Please note the fire department did discuss the budget request at a public meeting with the Board of Selectmen. An important point to highlight, in the budget description, there was a typographical error which indicated that the department was staffed only 6 days a week. That is incorrect. The main fire station is staffed with 2 firefighter EMTs, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And just a couple of other key points to address. The Ashford Volunteer Fire Department responded to 641 calls for service in fiscal year 2024 to 2025, which averages 2 calls in a 24-hour shift with an average call length of 95 minutes. 10% of the incidents overlapped, i.e. the department was already committed to an incident when a second or third call for service occurred. Currently, the department has 21 volunteers on its current roster, 7 interior firefighters, 4 of whom are active, 5 emergency medical technicians, 4 of whom are active. The 4 active interior firefighters are also the 4 active EMTs. Active means these personnel respond to 10% of incidents or more. 1 emergency medical responder or fire police officer who is active, 10 support personnel who have no certifications, 4 of whom are active, and 2 social members who are only administrative or non-incident activities. Every active volunteer is employed at a full-time job out of town. The main station is staffed with only 2 personnel. Current employees receive no health benefits. The department is asking for funding to correct this in order to align with area departments and town employees. The department is asking for funding to hire a paid fire chief. The addition of a paid chief will not make the department a fully paid fire department. As a good reference, the NFPA 1710 requires 17 firefighters within 8 minutes of time of call to be considered an adequate and fully staffed department. Last two notes, taxpayer funds are used to maintain the fire station, the 3 fire trucks, the rescue truck, and the service truck. Taxpayer funds are also used to pay the paid staff. Taxpayer funds are not used to maintain the second fire station, the rescue boat, the UTV and its associated trailer, or the ambulance. Funding for these items is covered by the department through donations and ambulance billing. The fire department hopes these points, combined with the answers provided to the Board of Selectmen, help the public to understand the reason for our budget request. Should there be any further questions, please submit them in writing to chief@ashfordfire.org. Regards, the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department. That's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else like to make a comment? Doesn't look like it. Going once? Going twice? Oh, Ron. Go ahead, Ron. If you could unmute yourself, say your full name and what road you live on, please. Ron, we can't hear you. It looks like you're not unmute. You are unmuted. Ron, we can't hear you, sad to say. So what I'm going to suggest, Ron, is that you send an email and that can be entered. We can share that at our next meeting if you are able to unmute. So the email, and this goes for everybody on this meeting, if you want to share any thoughts, it's BOF, as in Board of Finance, Ashford, at ashfordct.gov. Ron, I'm going to give you a few more seconds, and then we're going to move on. Okay. Anybody else want to make a public comment? Okay, I think we're going to move on. So next on the agenda is Select Woman's Update. Catherine, I don't know if you want to do that or if you want to skip that.
I'd like to waive that tonight since there's so much else to talk about.
Sure. Okay. So that keys up the presentation of the Ashford General Government Budget.
Thank you.
Catherine, would you like me to share anything on the screen while you talk?
I would love it if you bring up the overall budget, just the presentation.
Sure.
And then I think what we'll do is maybe delve into some of the answers to questions that board members had, which I'm sure are the same ones that people in the public might have as well.
Okay, so hopefully folks can see my screen.
Yep.
Great. Do you want me to go to the next? Just let me know when you want me to go to the next slide.
Go right to the next slide.
Hold on. Trying to get my screen set up here. Oops, that's not right. There we go. Okay. Second slide.
Okay. So here comes sticker shock. As you can see, the 2026 fiscal year budget was $4,141,146, which was an increase of 93%. When our Board of Selectmen, I do have to thank Sherry Susie in particular for all of the support she's provided to us. We went through this budget a number of times, and I applaud our new select folks for working as hard as they did to learn aspects of the budget that they had never really seen in detail before. So what we did was we did this a couple of ways. The departments submitted their budgets. We pulled that information together, looked at what the overall impact was, and went, well, that's too much. Went back in, looked at what we could pare back. And then when all was said and done, kind of dropped back to looking at the previous budget, thinking with a kind of a zero based mindset, and went through what we have for a budget for 2026 and went, okay, do we still need all the things that we have there? What belongs in each line item, which was an education for all my new select partners, and then looked at, okay, absolutely, what is critical for us to have going forward. So first of all, looking at what was already in there, and then cutting wherever we felt it was adequate, it was a good point. And then for anything where we had, what do we call it? Required increases for new updated versions of software, to stay current. For any contracts that we have that have increases that we don't really have a choice about. And we worked that into the budget. We came up with what we call the skinny budget. So with that, we then looked again and pared down what we felt we could pare down. And as a result, and what we did was we did the two ways. We took the fire department because we know that's a very, very big increase, and took that out completely. We took it out of the prior year, and we took it out of this year to just look at apples to apples in terms of for general government increases without the fire department, what did it look like? So without the fire department, it was $135,000 increase, which is 3.96. And then with the fire department, we did not modify or try to modify the fire department's request. I believe that all three of us are pretty mindful of how important our fire department is, and appreciate the work that they do, and we know that it's dangerous work. And we also know that it's very hard for them to keep staff. So we've kept that the way it is, and then we put the whole thing together and went, okay, the increase is huge. It's $624,000. I'm sorry, $624,377, which is a 15.8% increase. All right. So looking at budget assumption costs in general, the insurance rate we feel is expected to increase 10%. I believe the school has gone with that same rate. Heating oil has been locked in at $2.47 a gallon. Diesel fuel is priced at $2.51 a gallon. Gasoline priced at $2.39 a gallon, and propane priced at $1.77 a gallon. Incredibly enough, a couple of those are actually lower prices than we had before. I know there's some kind of war going on, and it's very hard to project what we think the impact could be on the prices of these items, but we worked with what we have. And also we have numbers that are locked in. So we'll see where that goes. As you've seen before in the Ashford school budget, we share services, Savage Systems, our heat, electricity, diesel fuel, and gasoline. We have combined capacity for contract negotiations, and that's been very successful over the years. Youth services supports students at risk and runs groups for the younger grades. Our youth social services director works here half-time, and she works at the school the other half of her time. And then we also we work with the same provider for our health, dental, and property liability insurances, and achieve discounts that way as well. Are there any questions about this first slide? Okay, want to move on?
Sure.
Thanks. So I hope you can see this well enough this gives you a sense of how those costs for the 4,765,523 parse out. So you can see that we've segregated out, our contingency, our debt service, general liability, our emergency management, our fire department, general government, which includes all of our, bear with me, all of our, almost all of our boards and commissions, except for ones that are involved with planning and development. So that's P&Z, inland wetlands. I'm trying to think what other ones would be. But anyway, they're under planning and development. And let's see, Babcock Library is represented there, and our recreation department, which is, as you can see, very small, and animal control. Contingency is we have an amount in contingency. We know that we're going to have contract negotiations with the union that must be resolved or settled by June 30th of this year. We are at the end of a 3-year contract, and we'll be negotiating for another contract. It could be 1 year, it could be multi-year. Hopefully that will go well. And we are just beginning that process. Any questions about this particular slide? Okay, Christina, if you'd move on. So this is to lay out for you what our staff is. I did forget one person. Under Board of Selectmen, we have had a slot for a part-time clerk, actually an at-will clerk, just to help out. We have cut that budget significantly for that. So I did forget to put it on here, but what we have is a first selectman office administrator. You all know her. She's Christine Abakoff, affectionately called my aide-de-camp. And then we've got our senior center, the assessor's office, the tax collector's office, the finance department, the town clerk's office. And what you'll see is that there's an asterisk next to the positions that are union positions. So when we think about our contract process, these are people who are involved in that in one way or another. We've got to register our as voters, land use, the people who are working in our land use department. Our clerk kind of herds them. We are taking advantage of a regional program that Bolton has. We've been doing that for a while now, and for our building official, and we actually have multiple ones. There's one key one who is the more senior that we see the most. Then we have our zoning enforcement officer, Mike D'Amato, who many of you know, Tyke. So they are contracted as well. And then our inland wetlands agent, who happens to be from a resource from NECOG and is quite expert. Actually, the best I've seen so far. And then we have our health inspector, who is from Eastern Highlands Regional Program. The highway department, these are the positions we have, and you can see which ones are union positions, with these basically full-time positions. The temporary employee is someone who fills in, can fill in. Is someone speaking?
Yeah, no, I'll just make a note here, Catherine. So folks in the Zoom, this is not a question and answer session. The public comment section of the meeting has passed. So there's not really an opportunity for members of the public to just ask questions. This is really for the Board of Finance to ask questions of the First Selectwoman and the Board of Selectmen. So if you have questions about what you're seeing, I would encourage you to send an email to either myself and or the Board of Selectmen. and or attend next week's meeting and you can make a public comment. But yeah, it's not a free flowing ask questions kind of meeting.
Sorry, I got so used to trying to do that. Yes, just feel free to send the Board of Selectmen any questions you may have. You can also stop in to talk with me, and send them to First Select Man at ashfordct.gov. Okay.
Okay, sorry, Catherine. Yeah, continue. Thank you.
Transfer station, we have two station operators. One's an assistant. They have a 27-hour week, so they're considered part-time. Anybody with 28 hours or more is considered let me make sure I got this right. Anyway, they have a 27-hour week. The transfer station temporary employee is someone who fills in when one or the other of those individuals is not there. We are currently in the process of looking for another transfer station operator to fill in one of these slots. Parks and Recreation, he is part-time, and what we did is made that a part-time position last year when we cut the budget. It's one of the areas where we cut. And he's been doing a fantastic job. Very easy to work with and very enthusiastic and knowledgeable. We can move on to the next slide. So what we've laid out here is departments that we have a net decrease or no change in their budget. So one is the selectman's office. We've got a salary and a clerk support we cut. Town council, legal fees, we realigned it because that particular department or that particular item is being used by a number of departments. And the Board of Selectmen cannot oversee all of it because we don't want to get in the way of what P&Z is doing. They have 2 lawsuits that are active. And inland wetlands also has a need for legal support. So what we did was we cut this and ultimately we put $20,000 under P&Z for legal support, and we put $5,000 under inland wetlands. We have not identified any other department that we feel needs to be able to just go and manage their own support for that. But they'll have a budget to operate with and a budget to operate against, and they need to keep us informed about where they stand with their budget. So you'll see more about that later. Maintenance of town property. Last year or this current year, we had $10,000 in there for Ashford Academy repairs, and that is being used. We've actually gotten had an electric company go out to the academy and look at their electrical system and also their fire alarm system. We're waiting for the estimate on that, but that is part of what we're doing this year. So we did not include that money in next year's budget. We do have about $1,000 in there for any maintenance they may need, but we were trying to figure out where to par things back, and that was one of the areas where we could.
Catherine, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's occurring to me as I'm looking at this that I'm maybe puzzled by it, and I want to make sure I understand it. So where this says, because you've got negative percents happening,
Yes,
but then there's no negative sign in front of the dollars.
I didn't bother putting it in because I called them net decreases.
Okay, so what we're saying here is the highway staff budget decreased 2.9% or $14,950.
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you.
What you'll see is the reason for the reduction was we cut summer help.
Okay.
We have someone, at least one student, who has worked with the highway folks group for the last 2 years, and unfortunately we're just trying to figure out where we can power things back. And then we have, we also, for highway, roads, and bridges, equipment rentals and E&S support, transfer station, temporary employee hours we cut, and we also cut printing costs related to pamphlets and stickers. Other departments, we have some other departments that had less than $1,000 change, and I just totaled them up and put them in here, and that was $1,733 for a total of $60,000 and $60,609 in cuts to what we had originally in our fiscal 2026 budget. And then departments with no change are listed here. Since they had no change, there were no numbers to put. And we can move on to the next slide, which is the last slide. So these are the departments that had net increases. One was the information technology department, and that was for Zoom support for half a year. Our ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan funds that have been paying for our Zoom support, will run out at the end of this fiscal year, which is, at the end of this calendar year, December 31st, which is half of the fiscal year. So what we did was we put in half a year's worth of Zoom support, and basically for that. And then we also have an issue. We use Microsoft Publisher for our Ashford Citizen and for a number of other things here. And Microsoft Publisher software, its end of life is October 2026. So we are looking for an alternative software to use and inexpensively that will work. Knowlton Hall Knowlton Hall operations and maintenance. We had many splits that were installed. I think there are either 6 or 8 in there, and they need to be maintained. So there's an increase for mini split maintenance. The town office building, here I'm talking about Knowlton, I forgot, it's up in the library as well. And then the town office building, as many of you may know, we've had trouble with our HVAC system and control of our outside lighting. So there has never been a service contract for our HVAC system, and we've been paying through the nose. So what we did was we needed some things fixed, and so we have a train HVAC service contract in place now, and it's about $5,500 a year, and $5,500 or $5,600, and that will need to be there for next year as well. There's a phone adjustment in there as well. Senior Center program expense we cut. We hated to do it because they were cut last year dramatically. So that was just one of the areas where we had to cut. Mini split maintenance is also included on there. We had to add, forgive me. For fiscal year 2025, the Senior Center had $12,500 for programs. For fiscal year 2026, when we needed to bring down our overall general government budget, we cut the program expense from $12,500 to $6,000 to, bear with me, I think it was $6,500. And this upcoming year, we're looking to restore, instead of $12,500, to restore at least up to $9,000 so that they can continue to hold some of their programs. We also have mini split maintenance we have to do there, and I think there are 7 mini splits there. Town clerk's office, They have an increase related to training, in particular training for the upcoming state elections, and contractual increases for software and services that they require actually. And then they have increased mailing costs because they do anticipate there will be, what do you call them? Increased mailing costs associated with the state elections, in particular potential primaries. Registrars of voters, poll workers have asked for 90 cent an hour increase. Engineering services, NECOG GIS was overlooked in the 2026 budget. And that is something that we have to have, so we put it in there. Planning and zoning, they have a requirement to codify the regulation amendments. And that is through legislation, and that legislation becomes effective July 1st, 2026. They also, Permit Link is a system that's used by both planning and zoning, and it's also used by the building official department, part of the department, if you will. So the cost for expanding permalink storage, which is absolutely necessary, has been split between the two. The building department, inland wetlands and water courses, their net increase was 4,450. As I indicated, their legal costs are estimated to be approximately $5,000. Employee benefits, these increases are for FICA, workers' comp, and health insurance. Again, as I said, the health insurance, we're estimating a 10% increase. Workers' comp had its increase. Liability insurance, KERMA, we are in the third year of a 3-year contract with our insurance coverage group for liability, auto, and property. And it was a contractual 5% increase in the third year. Debt payments, what we've done is, Sherry, Susie, and I will talk about that later, but that one is where we have added in a 6-month interest payment on the school roof bond. And as I said, we'll go over that later. Recreation fund, we had an accounting change that's a revenue versus expense change, which I will cover, and Sherry, Susie will help me cover when we get into that with the questions that were asked by the board. Youth and Social Services Program Fund, we have a person who was not eligible for pension, insurance, etc., and that eligibility has now will be fulfilled in 2027 fiscal year. So the increase there is 195,916, and the with the fire department, with a full-time chief, benefits hourly rate increase for their paid staff. The total is 684,986. If you were to subtract the 60,000 and change that was reflected in the departments that had decreases, you would see the total that is on the front section of this presentation. So, Board of Finance members, do you want to go through as quickly as possible the questions that you provided that we've sent answers back to? I know you didn't get a lot of time to go through them.
What I would like to do is have the Board of Finance members look at these questions and answers and then ask what follow-up questions they need to ask. I don't think we have to go through every single one of them.
Okay.
So I know myself, I need to get that open. Others probably do too. So give me 1 second. Okay. I have to remember where I saved it on my computer. There it is. Okay. All right. And what I would like to do, Board of Finance members, I'd like to have a conversation about the general government. Get through those, what follow-ups we have, and then talk about fire department. Let's not mix
Right.
match. Let's do one at a time. So let's focus on general government, excluding the fire department for right now. So I will start and give the other Board of Finance members a chance to look through, try to look at your questions and see what follow-ups you have. So can we talk about just in general, the school roof, the funding, what we got from the state, what the debt is? I do see the answers here, but I think an overall kind of like, here's the state of the state with the roof and the funding and what we have would be helpful.
All right, so I'm going to do this hopefully in concert with Sherry Susie. Hey there. I will tell you that we still have an issue. It's not holding up a heck of a lot. It's holding up the final payment to the payments to the general contractor and the architect. But we have certainly continue to have an issue with the architect refusing to approve the final payment for the general contractor. I will tell you, I think I've already mentioned that the contractor is suing the architect firm and Garland, who are the roofs manufacturer. So there's no love lost between them. There's a lot of bloodletting going on. And they're suing them not for our project, but for multiple projects that they've been involved with them.
So Catherine, just to clarify, the final payment, like what is the ballpark dollar amount for that? It's
actually what we're doing is, because there's a conflict between the two, one, the contractor says it's one thing and the architect says it's another.
mm-hmm.
So I'm a little
talking about $1 million.
What we have is our Chris Abakoff is working with Jim Rupert, who is the chair of the building committee for the school. They met today and they are going through everything so that we can actually come up with what we really feel. He has quite a bit of expertise to see if we can come up with what we believe the number is. So I don't know that Sherry, I don't know that you've been looking at this. This has been Chris Abakoff working on this one, right?
Yeah, Chris has been in touch with Jim. I've not been in those meetings.
So what we can tell you, what we did share in the responses to the questions about this is about the financing for what remains to be paid. And, and there's a reminder here. The town was only to be reimbursed about 65% for that roof. So that concept of, that we've gotten reimbursed, I'm forgetting the amount, it's not 1.7 million.
Yeah, 0.7.
Yeah. The fact that we were reimbursed that also means that we applied that against what we spent. Sherry, correct?
Correct.
So that's not like we have that sitting in a coffer somewhere to apply to do something like reduce a bond payment or whatever. And it's actually not related to a bond payment. We always do our bond payments. I know there was a question about this. Our bond payments are done as part of our general expenses. It's never been something that's done with monies from CNR. So I do know, the Board of Finance has the power to pull money from CNR, but you have to think about what you're doing with this, because that wouldn't really fit at all. It's almost like kicking the can down the road. So what Sherry and I have done is we've met with bond counsel, and I'm forgetting the other expert, to find out, how do we finance the rest of this? And if I understand correctly, it's $1.6 million that we have to finance, based upon what we spent and what we've received for reimbursement. Correct?
Okay, so in a nutshell, the town approved $5 million to spend for this roof. So right now, it's about $4 million that has been spent. We received 1.7, so you basically have to net the difference, and that's what you will bond. Right now, the amount that we're looking at to bond is roughly 1.6, because we still have some reimbursement that we can get from the state, but because of the issue with this last billing, that's kind of holding up things a little bit. But for a rough idea, we told bond counsel and the finance roughly $1.6 million that the town would have to bond. And so they gave us numbers as to what that would be over a 15-year period or a 20-year period. And so that's where that $31,000 comes into play in the budget, because that is, starting the first payment, because we can defer this until 27, but it's only just going to shove that payment down the line where we put it in
and
this
make it
year's
larger,
budget.
and make it larger in the next year.
So I hope that
The other
makes
thing
sense.
too is that when Sherry and I looked at this and talked with bond counsel, what we feel is that 15-year payment would be better, a 15-year bond. But what we did was we put in a 20-year one with a 6-month interest payment, okay, to be done in 2027, fiscal year 2027. Just put almost like a placeholder in there for what could be a scenario. When all is said and done, Sherry and I are actually stuck with making the decision. And we want input from the Board of Finance on that. And that has to be looked at in context with the rest of the general government budget. Certainly for our future in terms of what our payments are, but also based upon what we feel the public can bear. And like I said, we've been trying to get this budget pared down as much as we can. And that was just one area where we did.
So just because I don't think the other Board of Finance members didn't see the numbers that I saw that were shared at a capital improvement plan committee meeting. I think it would be helpful to send those, I think it was like 4 different scenarios of what those debt payments could look like. There were PDFs, but I received them in physical form. I didn't receive them electronically. So if that could be shared with me and or the Board of Finance members so that they can see that, and then we can, I think
we certainly will.
I think we would have to probably give them time to review that, and then we can have a more in-depth conversation next week about that.
Good. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I think does anybody else have any questions about the school roofs, the reimbursement, and the debt payments? 'Cause I know it's complicated. So any other questions about that? Okay, moving on. The next question is, I think, another one that needs a little bit, even though you did a good job answering it. I just think it needs to kind of be explained to the public. So the recreation fund, this is projected to go up by about 33,000. The presentation says it's due to an accounting change. And again, you do answer this question, but if Sherry or Catherine, if you could kind of just explain it in plain English So hopefully.
Gary, you're it.
Okay. So if the Board of Financial members, we set up a activities of account for the recreation to do kind of a pay to play type thing. So basically, we are taking the revenues away from the recreation revenues. So essentially, when you do that, the general fund subsidizes the expenses for the recreation. Is that easy in a nutshell?
Can I flip it around a little bit?
Okay.
Before, under all of our revenues,
Yes.
okay, to offset expenses, okay, we showed recreation revenues of approximately $35,000.
That would be correct.
Over the years. And one of the things that did happen, and a number of you may remember, is that the rec department had a lot of difficulty bringing in that much money. So this recreation activities fund, if you will, is one where, again, and part of this was that the rec department would do the outlay to set up programs, all kinds of programs, and even pay to play programs. And what would happen is when the money came in for the pay to play programs, they never got it to work with. So the activities fund is almost like a revolving account.
Correct.
Which means that they put out the department puts out the money to set up these programs, all the programs, but the pay to play ones, when they receive monies for people who are participating, that goes back into that fund. And what it does is offsets what's been taken out. And if they're doing it right, then they're making some money on this. In other words, they're charging for the programs, but they're making sure, one, that they've covered everything that's needed for the program, which was not what was being done before. Before, the accounting was not done as nicely. Okay. And they actually have an opportunity to expand their programs depending on what they're charging and how much extra beyond the expense they have in there. So that's an opportunity for them to grow the programs and create new ones. Otherwise, they're limited by the amount of money that they're given or allocated at the beginning of the fiscal year. And then any revenues just go into the general fund. So this is kind of an incentive, if you will, and a way to hopefully make some additional monies, that they can make some additional monies and offer more programs to the public. Did I get that right, Sherry?
That is correct, of the activities account. Correct.
But so then is it the hope that next year we won't have to subsidize it by $33,000?
You will always subsidize. You've always subsidized the recreation, because basically their budget was X amount of dollars. They only brought in X amount of revenue, and the difference is what the general fund subsidizes. So
Right.
now, by reducing that revenue, you're subsidizing their expenses more. And basically what you're subsidizing is the recreation director.
Right. Okay.
His salary,
Right.
and the couple of freebie programs that they do.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. So the
Right.
general fund is covering the sort of the fixed costs of running a rec department, and then the programs themselves are funded by the fees.
That's correct.
Got it.
The general fund subsidizes 3 funds, which is your animal control, your youth services, and your recreation. The 92,000 series that is kind of logged in with the fire department and the library. So you're always have been subsidizing those additional expenses that, they don't bring in enough revenue to cover the whole program.
Okay, I understand that. Does anybody else have any questions about that?
I just had a quick question, not necessarily about like the recreation, but I noticed about the senior center. Is that something similar that you do?
No, we actually tried to do that with the senior center, but what we've got people on fixed incomes. And there's just no way to really make money off that we really wanted to try this, but we're kind of holding back because we don't think it's going to be as successful as what we have going on with the rec department, at least not at this time.
So does it at least like break even? That obviously you're not like making revenue, but is it that we pay all of the expense, I guess, for all the programs?
Which department, Kayla? Are you talking seniors?
The senior
Center.
center. Yeah, so like was it like $9,000 budget
Yes.
that just comes out?
Yes, basically, the town is paying for those programs for the seniors, because what we have found is that we tried a couple of programs to have the seniors pay, and nobody signed up, so she couldn't run the program. So it works a little differently with the seniors because of people are on their fixed income, and so they're choosing not to go to those programs if they've got to pay.
One of the nice things about having Tess on our board of selectmen is that Tess runs a community center, which has a senior center component to it and other things over in Andover. And so we're looking for ideas. She's helping us with some ideas. They have more money to put into their programs than our town appears to have. So, but we're working with her to get some fresh ideas on how to do things. And it's much appreciated. Okay, other questions?
Yeah, so the Board of Finance members, please review right now the document with the questions and the answers. And if there's any answers that you see that you have a follow-up, if you could, speak up and ask your questions.
So I'll just point out something. One of the things that was a theme when you were asking your questions was in particular about electricity, because I think that I put in the responses we put in there for those questions, because they're about various buildings. We will take another look at that. We'll take another look at it and reassess those. But the points you were making is that we estimated too low based upon prior experience. So there have been some different things that have happened in these various buildings related to electricity or whatever, and even oil consumption. Okay, for Knowlton, for example, and so in particular, I noticed, and it was a good catch, for where you pointed to, wait a minute, you're estimating less for electricity than you did the year before, or you have this year. So.
Okay, Board of Finance members, any follow-up questions on the general government budget excluding the fire department? Okay. In terms of, I did have specifically to the revenue estimates. I do want to just note that we did receive a revised revenue budget that was distributed, I believe. Did you send that? What day did you send that, Sherry? Do you remember? Was it Wednesday?
We actually thought it was Tuesday, but
it was Tuesday or Wednesday, Christina.
So anyway, that was distributed to the Board of Finance members. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that because there was a pretty big jump. There was an error with the $200,000.
Yeah.
So if you go by the numbers from that original revenue budget, we are in much bigger of a problem than if you use the revised numbers. So let's make sure we're all working from the most recent version. I just wanted to follow up one question. On the and again, this is specific to the revenue budget, question number 5 about the Yale
Yep.
Forest program. So my follow-up comment on this, it's not really a question, but my position that I shared when this has been brought up in the past is not that the funding potentially of the conservation or the town's open space fund should come out of the or plot. So, okay, so this statement says the Board of Selectmen is waiting for the Board of Finance to act on the 2 requests made by the Conservation Commission to apply this revenue to the town's open space fund.
Right.
According to my notes and what I have shared at the 2 meetings where we have discussed this, my position is that we should follow the lead of other towns that include funding for open space in their general government budget. So that would come from the Board of Selectmen making a recommendation to potentially transfer. It would be like a transfer in, I think would be the technical term, of X amount of dollars from the unassigned fund balance to the open space fund. And I would expect that recommendation would come from the Board of Selectmen in the general government budget. I don't think that it's the job of the Board of Finance to do that.
Oh, okay, so what you're really saying is for us to increase the general government budget to reflect essentially an expense that would fund the open space fund, because that's a fund.
Right. That would be your decision as a Board of Selectmen to recommend that. That's what I'm saying.
So
I don't think
Christina,
that's
so
Yeah,
you want
sorry.
you would like it to show as an expense, or do you want it to show as a transfer?
Well, let me go back to my notes because I looked at other towns of what they did regarding this issue. And I don't want to spend too much time on this, quite
No,
frankly.
but you can do it both. You can do it both ways.
Right.
So,
Well, let me put it this way, Sherry. I don't really care how it gets done. I don't really have an opinion on it. And I don't think it should be the Board of Finance's job in this case. I think that what I said to the Conservation Commission members is go to the Board of Selectmen and try to get this as part of the budget. And if they feel that it is appropriate, they can bring it to us. And then at that point, the Board of Finance would say, yes, this is a great investment, or no, I don't think that's a good use of our tax dollars. And I don't think it should necessarily be limited by what Yale is or is not committing. I think that's a bit of a red herring. There's nothing in Yale's documentation that says it has to go to open space. We as a town could say we want to spend $20,000 and put that in the open space fund. The other towns do that. And so that's what I'm saying. I want to get out of this conversation about, well, Yale's giving us money, let's put that to open space. If we are committed as a community to funding open space, let's put that in our general government. If we are not committed to doing that as a community, then let's not put it in the general government budget. So what I would ask is that we put that Yale money back in the revenue budget, because it is money that's going to come into this town and it needs to be reflected in our financials. And if the Board of Selectmen wants to, weigh that as whether that's a priority for the town, I'm all for that conversation.
All right. Well, just let you know that Yale has upped their annual payments to New Haven by $5 million. And that Pat Boyd is, he told me this afternoon. And he said, we need them to up the payments to Eastford, Ashford, and Union because of the Yale forest. And so we will be working on that. We're figuring out who to reach out to that. But the reality is we will go and we will look at other towns, but other towns, I believe, do take these kinds of monies and apply them to an open space fund. Right now, what do we have? $7,000 in there? Sherry, something
The
like that.
fund,
It's pathetic
right?
because we are net.
And
we-
I
we-
agree,
wait,
Catherine. I would just
let
encourage
me
you.
finish. Can I finish talking? Okay. What we have done in the past is we have helped. I believe we took monies from the Open Space Fund years ago to help what Crook's Orchard. We went into an agreement with the state about it not being developed. I forget what it is, development rights, and we paid 25% and they paid 75% to essentially preserve something that's like a farm, to be a farm. So we will go and we will look at other towns and how they do that. But I don't think, I would think that it would be a partnership between the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen on how to ensure that this town is able to retain open space as much as possible, rather than have it all go up to development. So we'll do that.
So I would just encourage you to look at Hebron and Woodstock both have very good processes in place around this. And I think they're a good model if that's where we want to go. Okay. Let me just see if there is anything else on the revenue side. I don't think so. Anybody else have any questions on the revenue budget?
Well, I'd like to know if any of the other board members have an opinion about this, since you were the only one speaking.
Catherine, it's Paul.
Yes, Paul.
So I tend to agree with Christina on the premise that it should be an expense item on the budget because, for instance, if Yale were to up their pilot money and we simply made a blanket statement that we're going to take Yale's pilot money and apply it to the open space fund, we could be applying an unknown amount of money into a fund where we have other needs for those funds. I wish they'd give us $5 million.
And I'm not saying,
But you understand what I'm saying?
I'm not saying a blanket thing. What I was thinking is it's no different than moving money into capital non-recurring.
Right. And that's fine. That's what you're suggesting. And I'm saying I'm not comfortable with that.
Right.
And we've discussed that as a Board of Finance multiple times, and we've debated it over and over, and it's never moved forward. So what I'm trying to say that is if there is interest in moving this forward, that it needs to come from the Board of Selectmen as a recommendation within the budget.
Any more questions?
Any other questions on the revenue budget? Okay. I think so. We need to do the capital improvement plan, but let's move on to the fire department. I think would be appropriate first.
Well, I think you've all had the opportunity to read the presentation that was put together by the fire department. There is, have you looked at the questions that were asked, because they provide the best clarity on this? Bottom line, the fire department is looking to hire a full-time chief and to increase the monies paid to the paid staff to be, for one, a bit competitive. They're not really going to be competitive with a number of other fire departments around us. So in the responses to questions, it was laid out as to what those departments are being paid. And this is not just a problem for Ashford. This is a problem nationally, because there's less volunteerism, there are more strident requirements for fire departments than there were 30 years ago or 20 years ago. And it's a very dangerous job, and it's one that's vital. And they are, there's a concern for the safety of the people in the town, and there's a concern for the safety of the actual fire department personnel. So one of the things that's come up, and I think it was 9% of the calls are mutual aid calls. So there's a difference between having an immediate, a fairly immediate, what was the response time? 7 minutes? For something, people who are in town in the department and can respond, and having a mutual aid come from someplace else. So I think one of the things you need to weigh is, how important is it? I also don't think that, I know that even the fire chief position is a volunteer position, and then there are some other volunteers as well, but that's a pretty vital position to have, and it's being performed by someone who has a full-time job and a farm. So I think we need to take a serious look at what do we want our fire department to be? How important is it that you have quick response time? And I recently heard about a situation, and I'm not going to describe it as well as somebody from the fire department could, but where they had 2 calls essentially at the same time and then got a third call and didn't have the staff to be able to, cover everything, scrambling. The point behind having a full-time fire chief is to have that person there basically 5 days a week and doing all of the admin work that's required and attending meetings and all of that. And to make sure that we've got the kind of coverage that we really need and the attention that's needed to ensure that the department is running well. Not to say that it's not at this point, but I can appreciate how difficult it is trying to manage everything when you've got a full-time job someplace else. Literally across the country, out of the country. And that's not the only member of the fire department that has that kind of situation. So there are questions that were in made by Board of Finance members about the fire department. Are there any in there that you feel that you have not gotten a full response to, or you'd like to talk more about?
I'm going to defer to the other Board of Finance members before I start talking. So anybody on the Board of Finance want to ask follow-up questions about the fire department budget? Guys,
How many
thank you, Judy.
sorry, sorry. So how many staff are paid and how many are not at this moment?
Let me see if I can figure that out. There are, thank you. Oh, did I pull this up myself or did you, Christina?
No, I'm not sharing my screen.
Okay. The department currently employs 6 full-time firefighters / EMTs and 7 per diem firefighter EMTs. These are total staff counts, not how many personnel are on duty at any given time. There's currently a vacant full-time position covered using the per diem or part-time personnel. And the station, as was described by one of the people who spoke, was a person to be heard, is the station is currently staffed 24 hours a day by 2 personnel, and not by 6 personnel.
Okay, so that's all like really confusing. What I want to know is how many people are paid and how many people are not. If you have 22 people on staff, are
Yep.
10 paid and 11 not? And how do the staff that volunteer feel about some being paid and some not?
This has been going on for some time.
I know, but this is part of the problem of probably why you don't have volunteers, is it's very difficult for somebody to get in a group where half are getting a benefit and half are not. This was the problem to begin with when we started paying staff. So I'm just saying
We started paying
point,
staff. We probably started paying staff because we couldn't get enough volunteers.
Catherine, I've been in this town. My family's been in this town for over 100 years, so I know what's going on. But I'm just asking, at this point, how many are paid and how many are not?
Let me see.
Not with the per diem and this and that and the other. Just
I think. Bear with me. Just looking to see if that question was one of the questions that was asked. That we had
I saw the breakdown, but it just gave me the same thing that you just did. It's very unclear, and I don't know if that's intentional or not. I just want to know how many, point blank.
I doubt that it's intentional.
Well, I'm just saying, can we just have a figure?
So let's see. They have, the fire department has 2 paid staff on duty, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And well, since I deferred to Sherry, who I partner with on these budget things, along with my fellow selectmen, I'll defer to someone from the fire department because I know there's got to be someone there who could answer that question.
Thank you.
So who do we have? I believe that, let's see, we had Michael Varga. We had,
Michael had to leave because he's working and he got a call.
Well, we will get you the answer to that question then.
Let's let that be a follow-up. That's
Catherine,
great.
can I answer that?
Who is it? I
It's
don't know
Tess.
who's speaking.
It's Tess.
Oh, Tess, great. Thank
Go
you.
ahead, Tess.
Yeah, I believe that there's 21 volunteers and 13 paid staff. If I remember correctly, that from the paperwork that was given. And I do believe that the paid staff, not all paid staff are members of the fire department.
Thank you. We will confirm that for you and get make sure that you get that in writing, whatever it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do just want to note for those that have not seen the questions and answers that the salary range for this paid fire chief staff is $90,000 to $104,000.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about in terms of salary increases, an increase of $1.50 an hour, bringing pay to $25 an hour, is the proposal. Any other questions about the fire department budget? And I urge the Board of Finance members to please engage in this on this question because it can't just be me and Judy being the only people talking.
And if I could add on in terms of what you were talking about, let's see. Yes, $1.50 to bring the pay rate to $25 an hour, and what was shared is what other departments are paying around us. I'm just looking for the figure for myself.
There's a sampling here. Willington, $27 an hour. Somers, $29.18. Hebron, $29.50. Mansfield, $33.50. I do think that's helpful, but it is a bit cherry picking. I would want to see a more robust list of towns surrounding us to really get a sense of where we are in comparison to other communities.
It's actually hard to find like fire departments. All of them are unique. So it's particularly difficult to be able to do apples and oranges. I'm sorry, apples to apples.
So, what is Eastford?
We'll get you the information you asked for, and we will look and see if there's any additional fire departments that are around us.
Yeah, like Eastford.
Chaplin,
Chaplain.
Hampton, etc.
Not a problem.
Hi, this is Keith. My question would be around benefits. How do we stack up to others? If we raise the hourly rate to $25 an hour, what about benefits? Because I think that could be a big factor. You can pay them $25 an hour. And if the benefits aren't as good or existent, that could also cause someone to go to another department.
Well, that's the problem. We're actually losing people from ours that are going to other fire departments.
And it does say in the questions and answers, we asked the question, what other towns of Ashford size offer employee health benefits to firefighter EMTs? The answer provided was, as previously noted, most surrounding agencies offer health benefits to firefighter EMTs. All town of Ashford departments, including the library, offer health benefits to employees. To continue not offering benefits to fire personnel, EMS personnel is discriminatory. I don't think that really answered the question, however. I was looking specifically for Wellington offers benefits.
Wellington offers $27 an hour and a comprehensive benefit package and a 401k with a match and PTO. That's what Wellington offers.
Okay. I'd like to know what other towns in addition to Wellington offer as well.
See, Summers offers $29.18 an hour with benefits. Hebron, $29.50 an hour with benefits. Automatic 3% increase annually. Mansfield, $33.50 an hour. Comprehensive benefit package and retirement plan. Of course, they're a richer town. I get that. Now I'm sure they have better equipment to work with as well.
Yeah, this is Keith
Like
again.
I said, we'll get you information on some of these other towns.
Go ahead, Keith. What were you going to say?
I don't want to belabor it as well, but it's just, if our benefits are minimum compared, again, it's all what the town can afford. But other towns have more robust benefits. That could be, Catherine, I think you mentioned we are losing people, where benefits tend to be a real question, especially if somebody has a family. That's just something to keep in the back of our mind if we're going to retain talent, because it seems to me that we get people in, and this is my opinion, we get people in, they get their training, they cut their teeth on, doing Ashford and getting the experience, and then it's not lucrative enough for them to stay in town. They go somewhere else.
Right.
Am I correct that a lot of the paid firefighter EMTs that work for the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department also work in other towns?
That I don't know.
I believe that that's been mentioned in the past. So these are people who are basically picking up shifts. They have a full-time job over here, but are picking up shifts in Ashford to supplement. That's what I believe we've been told in the past.
You mean so they can make a living wage?
I don't know. I don't know whether they're making a living wage or not. I'm just saying that this isn't the only income for some of these folks. That's all. Other comments or questions about the fire department budget?
I did have one question too. So I was looking at, I guess number 20. So the question was, the budget proposes offering employee benefits. What percentage of the benefit would the fire department cover? And so the answer was the department would cover costs up to the budgeted amount. So I guess just in general, like how benefits work, can you actually put a cap to how much you pay for the benefits? Say, because if it's budgeted at 110,000, so like depending on like the benefits, if it's medical or related or whichever, isn't it kind of based off of like the claims and whatnot? Or is something different?
The the way insurance works is your rate is based upon your claims experience. You know, the rate of for example, increase or decrease over a year, you know, years.
Okay.
It's based upon your claims experience. But you know what? I will get some more clarity on this particular question.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would just like to say
Understand the
too
cap.
that I was a bit disappointed by this answer because my understanding with most businesses with insurance is the employer typically picks up a percentage, let's say 60%.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's 100%. And that's what I was trying to get a sense of, like, okay, we want to offer benefits. Are we covering 100% of the cost or are we covering 50? I think that's a legitimate question to ask to understand what our exposure is.
I think one of the things that was said in was covered in this was um, that the fire department would like to be able to, you know, clearly they're not using. Let's put it this way: Ashford School and the town work together to get the best insurance benefits we can get for our employees, our respective employees. And so I would suspect that the fire department would want to see if there was a way to work with us to see if they also could kind of, you know, be part of the bargaining power or whatever to use those same kinds of benefits for their employees.
So I think that raises a really interesting question, which is if we are going so far as to have a fully paid staff and we are then bringing benefits under the umbrella of the town,
Mm-hmm.
at what point does it, I mean, to me, at some point, it makes no sense to have this be a separate entity. Why wouldn't it just come under the umbrella of the town and the Board of Selectmen? So you have a fire chief, you know, a paid fire chief, just like Willimantic, right? Just like Mansfield, they have a paid fire chief and he's an employee of the town. Or maybe you just bring in the ambulance piece. And you leave the volunteer firefighting department separate as the nonprofit. Uh, to me, all of this raises a lot of questions about how do we manage this in the most fiscally responsible way where there's the most accountability. And when does a community make that jump from, you know, an arm's length relationship with the fire department and ambulance service to bringing it under the umbrella of the town?
Understood. That is, I think, you know, one of the things that's come out through this is that the fire department has at least now, you know, I know that they've talked about this over the years, but now they've actually put something together to try and make this happen. And I didn't anticipate, you know, I never thought it would be perfect. They, you know, we got a lot of volunteers there, but they're not all available to go and work on something like this. And so what you have is one or two who are probably doing that. And I wouldn't expect it to be perfect. And what I would expect is that, you know, they've at least laid out what a goal, okay, for them. And that's going to get refined. So we'll get some answers to some of these other questions and see where it goes. In the meantime, if you have any additional questions, you can either ask them now or you can send them to me.
Catherine,
Yes.
this is Ron Ricci from the fire department. I put a new headphone set in. A couple of
Okay, Ron,
Yep.
just to be clear,
You have to-
this
Yeah.
isn't a meeting where people get to chit chat, but
No,
I can, as chair, Ron, I can recognize you. So can you please say what your name
And
and
actually, as the person who is trying to convey what the fire department budget is, just like I used Sherry to make sure, the expert on a number of things, I would want to use Ron
Okay, that's fine. I still need to know his
as my agent.
I'd
Yep.
like to know his name and his title, please.
Ron Ricci, Ashford Volunteer Fire Department.
Okay.
Retired lieutenant, but still active.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to answer some of your questions. You
Okay,
had, yes, 90% of our EMTs work at other stations. They don't work just here. Many of them go from Stafford to Ashford to Summers and back and forth. It's 12 hours here, 6 hours there, 8 hours there. So yes, one of your questions was, do they go to other stations? Yes, they do.
thank you.
And another thing was with the budget, we got an announcement today from the chief that was texted to all of us about the situation in the fire department, just so everybody here understands where we're coming from. The announcement this morning was our ambulance, we have one ambulance, ambulance 520. Our ambulance went out of service this morning for an unscheduled maintenance. Unfortunately, after diagnosis, it was discovered to be a major mechanical problem. Consequently, ambulance 520 will be out of service until Thursday, March 12th. We do not have an ambulance until the 12th. Mansfield will cover. They always have covered. But the problem is, like we've talked about, sometimes we get 2, 3 calls within 90 minutes. We take one, Mansfield takes the other. Now they're going to take all of them because we don't have an ambulance. And this is going to blow the budget out of the water because of this, where we are right now.
I think something to add to that is in the past, if I recall, the fire department puts money aside to buy their own ambulances.
Correct. Correct.
So I have a question about that, Catherine. Could we consider purchasing an ambulance through the capital budget? We buy fire trucks, we buy school buses. Can we buy an ambulance in that way?
So take some of that expense off of them?
Right.
You're talking 275,000.
Yeah.
I mean, we spent more than that on a school roof. We spent more than that on a fire truck, I believe. So
correct. And we ordered a truck and it's still another 2.5 years out. So even if we ordered an ambulance, you wouldn't see it for almost 3 years.
Right. I'm not talking about timing particularly, Ron. I'm just talking about how we approach this as a community from a fiscally responsible standpoint. That's all.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
So that's something to consider. I kind of prepared a statement that I'd like to make at this point and then leave it open to conversation. So just so folks know, I've done the math on the proposals that have come forward. We know what the Ashford School budget is asking for. It's about 3%. We know now what the town is asking for, and that increase overall, I'm just going back to the number, overall is a 15% increase.
Yep.
And we know what the Region 19 district is asking for, and that is a 4% increase. So with all of those numbers baked in and our current revenue estimate and the reval, which if you've joined any other meetings, you've heard me drone on and on about that. This reval makes life difficult. It shifts the tax burden further. It's always been on homeowners in Ashford, but it further shifts the burden onto homeowners. So if we take all the numbers that have been proposed up until this date and make no changes, what we're looking at is a 13% tax increase on the median valued home. So that's about $782. If we break it down and get very granular, which we can because everybody's house is changing value differently. My house might be going up 45% and my neighbor's house might be going up 48%, and somebody else down the street is going up 20%. So the impacts are variable, but we can look at every property in town with these estimates and go, okay, what's the median tax impact going to be? And so I've done that math. And with these proposals, again, with what 3% for the school, a 4% for Region 19, and a 15% for the town, what we're looking at is 63% of homeowners in this town will see their taxes go up by 10% or more. So 2 out of 3 people, if we accept these budgets, will see their taxes go up by 10% or more. And that needs to go to referendum.
Will you be putting your analysis that you shared with us with the 5 or 6
sample houses? Yeah.
properties?
We can go over that later in the agenda. But I just want to share that number with everybody to understand, so you can understand my thinking. So given that, my thoughts regarding the proposed fire department budget increase. I think it's quite possible that a paid fire chief may be needed. However, the escalating costs associated with fire and ambulance coverage in this town, and I do call out ambulance because I think we just say fire department and people just think firefighters, which naturally you would, but it's actually fire and ambulance, and they're 2 very different things. So the costs, and they have escalated over the years, not because of anybody doing anything wrong, it's the reality. It's escalated a lot. It deserves greater study. I cannot, in good conscience, stand behind a 67% budget increase for the fire department without demonstration that this is needed and it is our only option. Before committing to a 67% increase, I think we owe residents a clear needs assessment, response time data, call volume trends, and a phased funding plan. There are several approaches that we can consider, and I don't even know all of them because I'm not an expert in any of this. But the ones that come to my mind include outsourcing ambulance service, absorbing the fire department into the town, sharing administration between town hall and the fire department. Without clear documentation that these options have been explored and vetted, along with detailed information on how Ashford's costs compare to other towns like us, I do not think that this proposal should go before voters at referendum, and I would not be able to vote for it. I'm not done speaking, Catherine. I propose a cost.
I had a question about something you said.
Okay, what's your question?
Did you say that you wanted to outsource ambulances?
I didn't say I want to outsource ambulance. I think it is something that should be evaluated whether that is prudent or not. I don't have a stance. Could be great, could be terrible. I really don't know. I'm not an expert in ambulances. Carrying on. I propose a cost of living increase for the fire department in line with inflation, which is about 3% right now. And I urge the Board of Selectmen to create a committee to study the rapidly increasing costs of the fire ambulance service in this town. That committee should include members of the community, including the fire department, and should be charged with doing a study of the costs associated with this service, what other towns are doing, and what the other options are for controlling costs, including exploration of how a paid fire chief may or may not improve public safety in Ashford. So that is my thought after thinking about this a lot. So now I would like to hear from the Board of Finance members on what their reactions are to that.
I think that's a very responsible response you gave, Christina. It's a huge increase, and the people of the town are just going to be in a state of shock when they hear it. And I think the more information we have to give them and the more options that might be open to us to hopefully get the costs down somewhat, I think it's our duty to do it. Put in the extra work. We got to get this budget passed.
I think this would be a good starting point. and maybe one that's overdue. But I also am concerned where I hear that firefighters that are working out of Ashford may be working other departments as well. I'd be concerned if they're going to, let's say, from Ashford to Willimantic to Mansfield. How many hours in a day are they working? And they could be very, very fatigued if they're working other jobs and then coming to Ashford, and that's not fair to them or to anyone that's in need that they're responding to, because there's just so much you can do, before exhaustion takes over. But I do like the idea that about a comprehensive study. If nothing else, it will put everything up front for people in town to see and to understand, and would be a big help if it's indeed that we need to get this budget passed. So that's my thought on it.
Thank you, Pam and Keith. Anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, I had just a quick one. I just want to reiterate, I do think that this type of study is a good thing. The first question, or the question that came to mind when reading through the answers was, what the confidence level and the costing that we've put in the budget for the insurance costs was. And I think that this kind of a study, this type of, deep dive into those details would, help tell that story and say why this is necessary or not. I'm not saying that, none of it is necessary or anything. I'm simply saying that having these details would make that decision real easy.
Judy?
I think more information is better. If we can find out the information and present whatever that information is for people to make a good opinion of what should go on. Quite frankly, like when Keith said, people are tired if they go to other towns and this and that, they take responsibility for whatever employment you have. I don't know how many people have left for employment or left because of management. I don't know. There's so many questions. I just don't know. I know we need it, but I don't think at this point in time, it's going to be really difficult for people to swallow this type of increase. And I'm really afraid that if we go with this, we're going to run into a problem. So I'm up for the study. Like I said, more information, the better. The more we know about it, the easier it'll be to talk about it.
So I do want to be, I think, realistic about the time it would take. I don't think we're in a position to do this kind of, it was hard enough, I imagine, for the folks engaged in this process to answer the questions that were put before them between Monday and today. That was a lot of work, and I appreciate that. I don't even think we could do the thorough job that we need to do before, like, this needs to go to public hearing. So I just want to be clear to make sure the board of finance members understand what I'm saying is, we don't say that this is not never going to happen, but we are recommending, like I said, a cost of living increase for the fire department. And then, hopefully this committee, this study could get started quickly, and then spend, I would think, 4 or 5 months working, researching, pulling all the data together. And then we would be in a position to put that, whatever those recommendations are, in the budget for the following fiscal year. So then we would be talking about this time next year, but we would have all this information in place so that we could tell voters, hey, this is why we need to do this, and look at all the the research that we did that shows that this is the best way forward.
And I don't disagree with that. I think what's been good is that the fire department has gone, you know what? Let's try and put something on paper. Let's try and get this out there so that people understand that they have a dire need. And that, you know, what is the future of this fire department? So, and again, with these volunteers who are, you know, not volunteers, but these firefighters and EMTs that are going, you know, working with other towns as well, they're all getting paid more than this town is paying them. So every one of them.
And I'll just say too, and this is everybody's favorite sport in local politics is, well, the state should handle this, right? Like we need a regional approach to fire and ambulance. It's crazy that we're doing this as 169 towns and even more volunteer fire departments. You know, so we can point fingers all day long at who else should be handling this and helping us, but we're going to wait a long time for that to happen. So I think we as a community need to obviously really take it seriously what's come before us. The red flag that's being raised. But I do feel we need to look more in depth so we can really make a case for voters that says, hey, this is needed and here's why.
You know, this is Keith. I believe you're right. You know, one of the things the people are looking at the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance as part of the leadership makeup of Ashford. And we won't have the answers to a study like this. It might even take 6 months. But at least if we bring that and show people, we recognize the severity of the situation, and we're doing this deep dive so that we can better understand it and make more accurate recommendations going forward. Because that's one of the things people are going to say, well, what are you guys doing? You're the leaders. What are you doing? And this would be a necessary approach, but also would demonstrate that we are going in that direction. And yes, your comments too about regionalization is very interesting. And we may even have to look outside Connecticut to see how other areas around the country have handled regionalization, if there is a case to be made for that.
Sherry, is Sherry there? Sherry Susie? We are aware of a place in Connecticut where they did something like that, closed down a fire department, and then had a disastrous fire or whatever. And so there are lawsuits going now. So
it sounds like there's consensus on the Board of Finance to this approach. I guess the question in my mind is, how do we proceed, and do we need to vote as a board to say, Board of Selectmen, please come back with a 3% increase for the fire department and plans on a committee, or can it be more informal than that? I'm not sure.
I think it could be more informal than that.
Okay.
You know, you've got all three selectmen here. You've got your pretty much most, if not all, of your Board of Finance here, and you've got a lot of the public here. So
Okay.
it doesn't have to be formalized. We will, you know, we will work with whatever we can work with. And I recognize that, yes, this will take more of a study and more in-depth information. You know, you want to make sure that when we go to do something like this, that it's successful. It's successful for the fire department and it's successful for the town.
Okay. Okay. So then I don't think there's more that needs to be said on it at this point. And so I think we can move on from the general government budget discussion. unless there are any outstanding questions from the Board of Finance members regarding general government in general. Okay. Whew. All right, guys, we're into hour 2. We're getting there. Let's see. We got, just looking at my agenda. So we've got capital improvement plan next.
I was having so much fun, I forgot about that.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we could table that for next meeting. I don't know, Catherine. What do you think?
I think I could do it pretty quickly.
Okay. All right. Let me find that so I can call it up on my screen. Which document do you want me
I
to?
would bring up, you know what, I would go ahead and bring up the chart, the
Spreadsheet kind of thing.
yeah, the Excel thing. I can speak to, through these pretty well. For God's sakes, you could probably do it as well.
Okay, wait a second. Because there's 2.
You also sit on the committee.
Okay. All right. Give me a second so I can share my screen. Okay. Can people see this spreadsheet?
Yep. I have it up on my computer, so. Could you make it a little bigger for folks? They might, yeah. Might want to slow down a little bit. Okie doke. All right. Okay. I want to thank the Capital Improvement Committee. I love how they operate. They're now they're pretty used to each other. They've operated together for a few years now, a couple of years, and some had been on there before. So what we did was gathered all of the requests from the various departments that typically participate. And I did a couple of reach outs to some other groups just in case they had capital requests that they felt that the town should be pursuing. So anyway, let's start with Public Works. Public Works is about to, well, for 2020, fiscal year 2027, Public Works 2024 Freightliner dump truck. We will be making the final, the plan is to make the final of 5 payments. This is for $33,127. And if you'll notice this year, Christina and Board of Finance members, I put the proposed funding sources over on the side. So it's a little bit easier to kind of look at that and go, this is where that those monies might come from. So for this, it was CNR, which is what all of the other payments have come from. And then the next one is LoCIP. The number may change a little bit, but I don't think it's going to go lower. And this is for road resurfacing. We get LoCIP every year. And so you'll see the proposed funding is over there as LoCIP. The put and take and book shed replacement. Anybody who's been to our transfer station knows how bad they look. There are vermin in the books, the book shed, and everywhere. They're just terrible. So what was proposed by Public Works was to take there's a concrete slab where the current book put and take is, and it's big enough to hold, I can't remember if it was 30 feet by whatever, metal building that could serve as both the put and take and book shed with a divider, put some then shelves and tables, and signage that says, don't bring food, don't bring clothes, whatever. Right now we have something that looks so haphazard, it's impossible to maintain or get any signage that's effective. So that's been estimated at $25,500, which I think is relatively inexpensive for what it can do. There's a bucket loader with broom that was the Public Works had requested before. I can't remember if it's just 1 year previous or 2 years previous. And what's been laid out here is to make that purchase or save the money for it and do it over a period of 5 years. So it could be a lease to own. It could be you know, something like that, or any other kind of financial arrangement we can make. But what it looks like it would come out to is 48,000 for the first 4 years, and then 41,000 for the last year, based upon the estimate that we got for it. And a reminder to everybody that when you vote as part of the referendum, you're not voting on all 5 years. You're seeing what's being planned, but you're voting on the next year, which is the next fiscal year, which is 2026, 2027. The salt shed replacement and equipment covers, the salt shed replacement has been a request and a need for a number of years. And we have an estimate on it. I don't know if that'll change, but what was decided was to look at that again next year and potentially put that together with equipment covers that these two domed equipment covers that would would protect machinery that cannot fit in the garage, that and make that put that together for a steep project. As a steep project, typically, we have a steep project, which is what we've just had and are not quite done with yet, is the repaving of the public works facility, which includes the transfer station. We got a steep grant for that, and I believe it was 400,000, and we had to put up 80,000. I can't remember the total amount off the top of my head. So typically with steep grants, the town puts up 20%, and the steep grant is from the state to help us do some of these bigger projects. So that's to be looked at again next year, and hopefully to come up with a good plan for it, maybe more, make sure we got a solid estimate, and to see if there's an opportunity for it to qualify for a steep grant. Reval is something that we set aside money for every year. So every year we do $15,000, and what you see here is we've already had a reval. Our next reval is in 2030, which is not, as I look up at the top here, it is not 20309. It is it's actually, wow, this is the wrong one. 2030 to 2031 was when
Oh, yeah.
when we'll have the next reval. Okay. The fire department, we've already set aside 2 payments towards this the 2026 fire truck, and have that commitment. If I understand correctly, they're designing it now, and or working on it now. We've saved 230,000 so far. This is to keep adding to the coffer, the pile, if you will, the bucket for that, so that we are able to replace that fire truck. And we have been doing this with fire trucks and other vehicles this way. Now that we've had the conversation that we had tonight about the fire department, it may be that sometime in the near future we will see an ambulance on here.
And I think too, I just want to point out, just because people might not understand when we talked about the capital budget, this is what we're talking about. And that, I think it's probably worth exploring, like we discussed, purchasing an ambulance through this. And also, is there an opportunity to revenue share? Again, depending on where we end up with the study and everything else, if there is dedicated revenue coming in that's covering ambulance service, might some of that maybe be matched funds, kind of like what we do with the school, where there's sort of, the school matches funds sometimes with the Board of Ed non-lapsing account on some purchases. So
let me make certain I understand what you're saying. It wouldn't be an ambulance service. It would be a physical ambulance.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
No, I'm just saying that the ambulance service itself is a revenue generator because it often gets paid, there's insurance that covers it. So, and that's in the budget information that the fire department provided. And they're saying they want to use that funding towards purchasing an ambulance. And I'm saying, well, if they're going to allocate some dollars of their own, can they allocate it as a share so that maybe the town kicks in half and the fire department kicks in half, something like that. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe that's a terrible idea. It's just an idea.
It's working together on something,
Right.
which is never a bad idea. The next thing on here is the third round of replacing the air packs, which are absolutely vital, and ours are pretty outdated. So we've already replaced 12, and this is the last 6. And I believe they also meet standards, are definitely meet current standards. Then we have the hydraulic rescue tools, essentially the jaws of life. And while we have jaws of life, they're old, they're heavy, they can be put on one of the other vehicles or whatever. This is newer, lighter, and would be a real benefit for our fire department. So, and that's just $48,000. I say just $48,587. When we get down to Ashford School, every year we either purchase a bus or a van. And the town has been doing that for some time. It kind of takes the onus off of the school for trying to get through all of that. And there are currently 9 buses, if I recall, and they're on a 10-year cycle, I think it is. I can't remember. What happened when we went to purchase the school bus this past year for it was supposed to have been $130,000. And what ended up happening is that due to federal tariffs that were put in place, we got just in time. We were told that it was going to cost us $15,000 more. It was estimated originally at $130,000, and for the one that we purchased this past year, we were able to catch it in time so that we didn't get tagged with the third tariff, which is, the first one was $5,000, the second one the next month was $5,000, and then they were going to tag us with another one. So we signed the contract and got the school bus this fiscal year, for $140,000. We did go back to the Board of Finance to get that approved, the $10,000 approved, which is why you see Board of Finance members, which is why you see in the system reports, you see actuals in that are at the bottom of the whole budget that reflect that transfer of the $300,000 that had been done from the general government. I'm sorry, from the undesignated fund, general fund, if you will, to the capital non-recurring or CNR fund to help pay for items that we were purchasing over this past year and planning for. So so right now this estimate's at $145,000. I do hope that it doesn't go any higher. It's hard to tell. This next one is the school they've had essentially a phase 1, phase 2 program to look at safety changes in the school that were recommended actually a number of years ago, and include replacement of the ADA doors, the entry doors to conform with ADA and window design. And what they were able to do this year, that they've already using monies that they had already set aside that were in our previous capital improvement plan, that they took from their I want to call it the 1% fund, but I can't call it that. The
Non-lap.
Board of Ed non-lapsing?
yes, thank you. Thank you. Is Cindy out there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So what they've done is they've sectioned up. There are a lot of windows. They're sectioning up the work, and this is the design work. What they're doing is they're doing it smart. They're figuring out what the design needs to be so they can start staggering the replacement of these windows and the doors. So, and they also found out about essentially a grant program or something like it called DRIP. And DRIP, if I look a little further in this, I can tell you what the name of it is, but I kind of like the whole name of DRIP here. So they were able to take the 20,000 that they wanted to expend for their phase 3 work and they believe they're going to use DRIP monies for it. For the phase 4 and phase 5, they don't know that they would have something like that available. So it's been put on here as placeholders, and we put CNR next to it.
Can I ask a quick question? And Cindy, you might need to chime in on this, because I know this came up at a capital improvement committee meeting that I was at, but then I think it looked like the Board of Ed opted to cover the costs through its Board of Ed non-lapsing account. So there's an issue with the boiler, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And so just, I think that's good for folks to know exactly roughly what the cost on that is and how it's being funded.
Yeah, it's approximately 80,000. It's coming out of the non-lapsing fund. And we're going to be using the DRIP funds for this current fiscal year, 2026. So I was just actually on a call yesterday with the state of Connecticut. DRIP fund will be coming out every year as it gets funded. But it is a new program that it is very similar to the low SIP. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Yes. So it is a very similar type program. So there are certain things that can be allocated towards that, and it's things that go wrong in your building for your infrastructure, and heating is one of them. So we have a BMS system that needs to be replaced, and it needs it now. So we're starting that process.
And if I can add to that, this whole thing, a key aspect of the windows replacement is because of all the heat the school is losing.
Correct.
It's quite an energy issue.
Yeah, we have single pane windows that are in big sections of the building.
Okay, thank you for chiming in. I appreciate that.
Down here, town projects, land use file scanning. This is something that was requested last year. It may have been requested the year before as well. And this is to take records that are down in our land use department and for specific, for each property, and to scan them. As a result, they will be available online. And I believe that you'll be able to pull them up. People will be able to pull them up through the GIS system that's available there. That we work with NECOG on. It's through them. So this scanning will make it so that the public will not have to wait for the department, for our doors to be open every day, to be able to go and look at information about their property or any other property that they're interested in. And instead of having to climb through the files. So this is quite a project, and there is technical work that needs to be done in order to do this scanning. So Ashford Academy has someone has done a high level assessment, structural assessment of the academy. This is to get more detailed information, more of a, where are all the components that need to be repaired. It is on the National Registry of Historic Buildings, and it is one of our gems. Maybe some people may not know that, but it's got quite a history, and it's definitely a landmark in our town. And this is to do a good structural assessment so that repairs can be made to make it so that it is usable, so that the public can go in, they can learn about the history of our town. I heard some great stories. I happened to meet a man who told me about when he was a kid and he used to go to that school. He was the one who used to light the fire in the potbelly stove back in the corner. And the story I heard was the teacher had a buggy whip that she used on the kids when they weren't paying attention or whatever, and that the kids somehow dropped that buggy whip behind the chalkboard. So I don't know. It was a great story. Town office laptop replacements. The laptops for pretty much all of the departments in the town, these were purchased back COVID time, early COVID, and some of them don't support the current version of Microsoft. They have issues, and this is to replace the laptops and their docking stations. Each one is $1,240. So there's 10 of them.
And these are PCs, Catherine, not MacBooks. I just know that's
they're
a
not
question that comes up with the school.
They are not MacBooks. Oh my God, I couldn't function on one, but that's me. Okay. Next one is baseball courts, something near and dear to many in the town. What we were looking for, the committee was looking for, is we had 3 options, and we didn't have estimates for everything. So I talked with the head of the chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission, and he was agreeable to, since we didn't have solid estimates, to move this over to next year to be considered. So one of the problems with the current pickleball court that's at Pompey Hollow Park is not how many people want to use it and are enjoying it, but the fact that it is breaking down. And when it was put in, they did not do basically a new foundation under it, and I wish they had, because the foundation that's under it is the old, I think, basketball court or tennis court. And as a result, there's water that's running underneath between the two. And there are fissures in the surface. And, it's pulling up on some edges and whatever. So one thought was to repair it. Another thought that was brought up was to put additional pickleball courts down at Ashford Memorial Park. A third option was to replace the pickleball court that's at Pompey Hollow Pompey Hollow, and do it right. So moving this over to next year gives some time for us to take a good look at what could be done and if it's wise to do it. It is something that, as part of the American Rescue Plan and its mission, was to get people out after COVID and get them, out in the community and with each other in the fresh air, etc. And believe me, the pickleball courts that we have right now are getting a lot of use, and other towns are putting them in as well. And many of them have already, and they're putting in more. So that's what that one's about. And that's not something to be voted on during this referendum, if in fact the Board of Finance approves what's been shown here. Down at the bottom, well, and what we have here is a total of $661,328 in total that are needed to support what's here for fiscal year 2027. What you see down below is the suggested funding. Now, remember, there's LOSIP up at the top, but we get a LOSIP grant. I'm going to call it a grant. We have the DRIP grant, District Repair and Improvement Grant. Okay, so what's up above for fiscal year 2027 for the school in terms of that phase 3, which is also repairing replacing some components in the boiler. So that's represented here. And then the net of that is what would be is to be considered for funding through our capital non-recurring fund. And I know that Christina has asked for what is the current, bear with me, what is the current balance
yeah.
of that fund and our undesignated, fund. And so it's a kind of complex in terms of how the Board of Finance decides how much money to conceivably, if they can, move into capital non-recurring to help pay for these things. Now, when you go to vote on these are not taxed. This is not part of the tax base. What it is monies that, and actually, I'll let Christina explain what they are because she is definitely very knowledgeable. So you can explain
Sure.
what, how we get money into CNR and what it really means.
Right. Yeah. So I just think it is important for everybody to understand because they see $661,000 and they go, "What? Why are we spending that money?" And the reality is this is money we either already have in the town's coffers, or could be covered by grant money. So we don't have to tax to do these projects, and that's why they're, I mean, we could. There are towns that do tax to fund these kind of projects potentially, but we are choosing not to do that to stay kind of within our means, and that's traditionally been the approach. I and as you mentioned, Catherine, the question is typically we do, as a Board of Finance, allocate some funds from the unassigned fund balance into CNR to help fund that account so that we can cover these projects. The balance as of the most recent audit is healthy. Let me look that up real quick. I know it's in one of these questions.
3,000,003, I
Okay.
believe.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So it's a very healthy number at the moment, but my concern is I want to make sure that that's not money that's spoken for with other things. So there's a scenario, I think, where we don't necessarily have to transfer anything this fiscal year, because that account is healthy right now. But I
Let
want
me-
confirmation, or can you comment on that, Sherry?
I can. On
Okay.
that, you got to remember money that's floating in there is the bond, the anticipation note. So if you take out the whole school roof, there's probably, I mean, I was playing with the numbers this afternoon again, give or take, there's probably $825,000.
Okay. Yeah, and that sounds right. I feel like that's kind of been the balance.
Yes. And remember, there's also coming into that 300,000, but then we have these expenses going in and out at all times. But
Right.
if you take that 3.3 million minus out the reimbursement and then all of the school related expenses, say that's a separate fund on its own, there's roughly 825, give or take a little more.
Mhm. So so that essentially would cover with some excess what's being proposed in this capital improvement plan.
Yes.
But there is an argument to be made that we want to continue to fund that so that we're never in the lurch and we have a healthy account. So I would like to, I know I'll do some work and look at the numbers, because we always look at, okay, what's in our assigned fund balance? What's that percentage? We try to be between 10 and 15. As of the audit, we were actually above that. We were around 17%. So we're in a pretty good place. So I'll crunch some numbers and run those by you, Sherry, so we can look at that at the next meeting.
One of the good things about having this kind of a capital plan for these types of purchases is that, you know, years ago they would just hold a town meeting to decide whether or not to buy purchase a fire truck or something like that, and it would be a big deal, but they might have multiple town meetings during the year for various purchases. So a number of years ago, the capital 5-year capital plan was put together, and when you vote on, you know, what's planned for the current year, especially for those items that it's a one and done deal, you know, whatever it is, the put and take shed with the covers. What it does is when it gets approved at referendum, it allows, for example, Public Works, the fire department, or whatever, to get the best price at the best point in time during that fiscal year. It gives them some wiggle room to do that. I just think it's been a really good way to do it. The Board of Finance has policies that they follow in terms of when they move money over or how much and all of that. And so it's a pretty structured way of approaching this. And the other part of it is that the taxpayers get to see the general government budget, the school budget, the Region 19 budget, and the capital improvement plan at the same time, so they can see everything in concert and understand, you know, what the plan is for the year. So I hope that what's been presented, I know Christina, you sit on that committee, and we have some pretty sharp people on there who've been around for a while and represent the various departments. So I'm hoping that this plan will go forward. So, thank you.
Do any Board of Finance members have questions about the capital improvement plan budget?
Christina, I just have one question.
Go ahead.
And I'm the one who brought up about the difference between the iPads on the Board of Ed budget and and with this has been presented, the laptops on this budget. I'm still confused as to why laptops, which have, according to the paperwork, a 4 to 5 year useful life at $12,500 versus the iPads that have the same shelf life or useful life for $27,000, and the iPads aren't part of a capital improvement budget. My belief is that the iPad should be capital project or capital budget, not taxed. That's just my feeling. They're the same thing, literally the same thing, just different platforms.
So I think that question is for you, Catherine, or Sherry Susie.
I think to tell you the truth, I think it could be taken either way. I don't have a problem, you know, I personally don't have a problem with something that is a big effort, you know, a big expense being looked at as something as a capital initiative. The thing is that typically it's a one and done. And, you know, in the right world, it would be easier to do a staggered approach. In our particular case, in town offices, they're all the laptops are old. So it's not like we can stagger out what we're doing. The school, I don't know how the school does it. I think they do a staggered approach, but I don't know how frequently they replace the laptops. I just don't remember. Cindy, do you know?
Yeah, it's a staggered approach. It goes, we have starting in the fifth grade, a one-to-one device. We've been doing this for I don't years because we used to do what's that noise? We used to do laptops. Now we do iPads because of cost.
Okay, thanks.
I mean, I guess my question would be from like a technical standpoint, is it appropriate to put laptops on a capital budget? Is that not from an accounting standpoint correct, or is it correct? Because it sounds like we have two opinions. We have the school saying no, no, never put laptops on a capital budget, and then we have the town saying, well, sure, put laptops on the capital budget. So
This is,
who's
in our
right?
particular case, it's a project for all of them.
I see. Okay, so because you're approaching it as this is a one-time big purchase, we see it as a capital.
That's the only reason that I see it as a capital one.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Paul?
I mean, it sounds like so for the town, it's going to be basically every 5 years we're going to see this, which is fine. That makes sense. And the school is just going to continue. And I think I asked this question, and Cindy may have answered it. Every year we can expect to see that line item in the school budget for replacement iPads. Is that correct, Cindy?
That is correct. I mean, it's been in the school budget for, I don't have the year that the one-to-one devices started, but they used to be laptops, and it started, probably, it was well before COVID. Everything always starts and finishes with COVID, I guess. But
Not wrong. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it really doesn't matter. It's just my opinion. I you know, from my standpoint, that's where I think it should be.
You think what should be where?
I think that the iPads at that amount and that many should be a capital project, even if it is every year, because you're getting a new cycle for new students. Um, again, my thought.
Huh. Hmm. Well, I don't know.
I think when you think about it and you look at the capital improvement budget, I don't know that we've ever done something like that in the capital improvement budget where it was cyclic, other than the buses.
I guess that's kind of the example I was driving off, Catherine, is that we do it
Yeah.
for the buses. Um, is this something that we should be doing for other capital items that are cycled through? During the Board of Ed presentation, they stated that those laptop or those iPads stay in the school. Once the students are done with them, they cycle them downward, which is great.
Mhm.
But then they purchase new ones for the next grade every year or the upcoming student every year. So it's kind of the same thing in my mind as a bus. If we know we're going to have to do it every year and it's that big of an expense, it shouldn't really be on the taxpayers to fund those for every single student all the time. That's just, again, that's my opinion.
You cycle fire equipment too. You have Scott air packs. You cycle them.
Right. We cycle them through the capital budget, and those are 20 or to 20, depending on when we purchase them. In this case, they're 20, I think it's 25-year life cycle now, the new ones. So we've done a 3-year cycle. They'll be good for 25 years. And sometime in the 20-year mark, we'll start to recycle again intentionally so we don't hit them all at the same time because
Right.
they're rather expensive.
And we'll all be here then.
I mean, I think that's probably, maybe that's a question for Cindy and the Board of Education to weigh and discuss with their business manager. On whether they will, I mean, it sounds like there's openness on the part of both the town and the Board of Finance to have the school laptops potentially as part of the capital budget, which would alleviate the school budget. That would be potentially a good thing for them. So I think it should probably be something that's discussed at the Board of Ed level with the administration on whether that really makes sense.
It also might be something you might want to ask the auditor about.
Yeah.
Just get that kind of an opinion.
Okay, any other questions on the capital improvement plan? Okay. So next up, is there anything in closing you want to say, Catherine, about the budgets overall? Or are you good?
Who knew that Catherine would be talked out? No, I appreciate I particularly appreciate the questions, even though some of them made me a little crazy, the questions that were posed by board members, because it made us look at aspects of the budget. It's my fellow selectmen and I spent quite a bit of time, multiple Fridays, other times, many hours going through the budget, trying to understand everything that's in it. They were good students when it came to learning about different line items, etc. Asked really good questions, but we needed that other set of eyes too. And so I appreciate the fact that the Board of Finance members took a good look at it and didn't just kind of, go, oh my God, and, walk the other way. So thank you for doing your job. And at this point in time, we're going to go back. I don't know what kind of directive you're providing to us, but we'll go back. We'll look at what was brought up. The electrical thing is a little concerning for me. I don't know what happens when you have locked in rates for gasoline and oil and those kinds of things, and then you have war. Okay, does that mean the contract is void, or is it that does the company go under? I don't know. It's that's nagging at me a bit because I felt comfortable that we had the numbers locked down, and so we'll take a good look. I think I put in as we put in the responses for some of the questions that were asked, we said that the Board of Selectmen will reassess. We'll go do that. We'll work with the fire department on whatever we can come up with. And the other part of it is that we will definitely be pursuing putting together a good, knowledgeable committee to look at, to start to lay out really in the level of detail that's needed, a plan for our fire department. I'm not throwing out what they've put. I'm just saying that I understand that we want to make sure we're putting something responsible forward. And I also understand the frustration of the fire department. It's been going on for years. It's gotten worse over the last few years because they have lost, so many volunteers. The people's lives are busy. They're stressed. And, this isn't the only fire department. It's a national issue. I know Stafford was having their issues last year. It was on the news. So.
Okay. Thank you very much, Catherine. Thank you to the Board of Selectmen and all the various parts of the town that work so hard on all of this. We appreciate it. So the next item on the agenda is to review the mill rate calculator to sort of see what what these numbers look like and what the tax impacts could be. So I'm going to take everybody through that and share my screen. Okay, so we're gonna start, and I can't remember if I put this on the screen earlier, if I just spoke to it. Did I have this on the screen earlier?
No, but we can see it fine.
Now you can see it now. Okay. I'm gonna add a decimal point here. So, okay. So this spreadsheet shows what has been proposed thus far. So we have the general government budget with a 15.1% increase, the Ashford school budget with a 3.4% increase, and then Region 19 with a 3.9% increase. Just to remind everybody, we can control this line for general government and Ashford School. We cannot, as a Board of Finance, control the line for Region 19. They have their own board, they set their own budget, and we basically just take what they give us. And then voters at referendum can have a say at that point. But we as a Board of Finance can't make any adjustments to that Region 19 budget. So then that shows a total cost of government services of about $18.2 million. And then we have revenue that comes into the town. The most significant part is education cost sharing, which is the state funding for schools. And so that number is about a 2.3% increase. And Sherry, if you could double check my math here, you don't have to do it right now, but just, early next week, let me know if you come out to the same number for revenue.
Will do.
Okay, thank you. The fire department abatements, this is for people who are volunteers in the town. They get $1,000 off their assessed property value. And so 9 people qualify for that. And they get, so that's a $9,000 basically cost to us. So the total grand levy, which means the amount of money we need to raise as a community through taxes to pay for all of this stuff, is about $13.9 million. Then we have this number here, which is the net taxable grand list, which is the total value of property in town. So that's all the property that we can tax, basically. And so then we do a calculation, we kind of do some algebra, basic algebra, to go, okay, what mill rate do we need to charge for every $1,000 of property to get us to this grand levy of $3.9 million. So doing that math with a spreadsheet, we come to a mill rate. And this is just estimated. This is, please don't run out of this meeting and go, we're going to have a mill rate of 28.568. This is just, we're having a conversation. But with all these numbers, we come out at 28.568, which is a decrease of about 7.81 mils or 21%. So you would on paper go, fantastic, our mill rate is dropping. That means everybody's making out great. But unfortunately, that's not how it works with a reval, because your value of your home has increased significantly, in some cases 45, 50, 60%. And the value of real estate of homes with this reval, they become much more valuable compared to other property types. And those other property types are things like cars, business equipment, apartments in town. So all of those categories increased a little bit, but home values increased significantly, which means homeowners with this reval are taking on a larger portion of the burden than they have in the past. So what I did with this number, just to kind of put it in real terms, first I looked at, okay, for the median value home, what would this mill rate equate to? And so the median value home last year was about $167,000. This year, under the new reval, the median value home increased to $240,590. So you can see right there, that is a big increase. 167 to 240, big jump. So because of that, with this spending plan, that median value home would see its taxes go up 13% or $782. Now, that does not mean every house in town will see their taxes go up 13%. Some will see their taxes go up more, and some will see their taxes go up less or stay flat. And that's because the reval impacts everybody at a different amount. So, to get a better grasp on what the variations are, I put together a list of sample homes. I don't know if is that too small, or can people see that? Whoa, sorry. Okay, I'm just going to magnify it a little bit. Or not. It's not letting me do that. Okay, we're going to move on. Uh-oh. I don't know what that just did. Okay, so this spreadsheet shows that mill rate that we just discussed. Again, is a theory. It's not a done deal. But let's say if we went with this mill rate of 28.568, what would the taxes look like on different homes in town? So I picked, let's see how many. I picked 6 different homes, and I tried to pick a variety: older home, newer home, home with a lot of land, kind of moderate ranch, bigger home, small, etc. So to kind of get a feel for what this looks like. So, for example, this is laid out from sort of highest impact to lowest impact. So this home is built in the 1970s on a third of an acre. It would see an increase in taxes of 17% or $928.88, which is about $77 a month. This house, the next house, is an older home, an antique home, I guess you would say, built in the 1800s with 32 acres, so significant land. This home would see an increase of 16% in taxes. Then we go down to a 25-year-old home that would see a 14% increase in taxes. And 10% for this newer home, and then 7% for a house built in 1970. And then finally, this home would see an increase of taxes of 6%. So does that make sense, everybody? How everybody's going to have a unique story here. Nobody's going to be the same. And that's what makes this really complicated. Does anybody have any questions of what I've shown so far? Okay. So the next thing, what I think some people might ask is, well, what is the overall big picture? Like, how do we kind of understand the impact, even though everything's different? So I looked at every home in town. I got a list from the assessor, and I have their current assessment, meaning the new number for the reval, and then what their previous assessment was, and then figured out their old tax bill and then their possible new tax bill with this mill rate that we've discussed. And when you do that math, I then went through and figured out, okay, how many homes are in each kind of bracket in terms of tax increase. So under this scenario, 58 homes, or 4% of homes, would see their taxes stay flat or go down. So 4%, 4 out of 100 homes will see their tax bill stay same or go down. And then you can see the ranges here, but the bulk of people are kind of in this area, right? Of a tax increase between 5 and 10% or 10 to 15. And some people, 280 homeowners, will see their taxes go up between 15 and 20%. And 263 homes will see their taxes go up 20%. So that's where I got the math where I said 63% of homeowners will see their taxes go up by 10% or more. So basically you just take these, you say 30% plus 18 plus 16, you get about 63%. And the median tax increase would be 12.2%. So to me, the question is then for the Board of Finance members, what do we think about those numbers? And I think we've already said we're recommending that we pull out that fire department increase. We basically table that, look for something more along a cost of living increase. So that's going to adjust the numbers downward. So what are people's thoughts when we talk about this?
Yeah, this is Keith. Right now, I just feel like I need to take the whole picture and really digest this. I also am concerned about, the fire department and what we discussed tonight. So I wouldn't want to commit to, any type of, like agreeing to just a cost of living increase. I just have to really give it more thought.
What do others think?
My thought is tabling the fire department would make it a lot easier for people to accept the increases with the revals. I thought last year was bad. This year's much worse. And last year we passed it in one vote. We keep piling things on. There's no way we're going to get it through in one vote. And, whatever we can do to mitigate everything rising, I think it's going to work in our favor getting this passed.
So would there be like a separate vote for the fire department?
I'm not necessarily saying we need to vote on anything tonight.
No, I'm not talking about tonight. I'm just in general.
Oh, in general, like at referendum, will we have a separate vote?
Well, I'm not how we, given the needs of the fire department, just if we don't do something, if we just hold the cost of living increase or something, are we just kicking the can down the road?
Yes, I think we are. But we're kicking the can with the commitment, we're kicking the can with the commitment to say, we know this is a problem and it needs to be addressed, but we believe that it needs to be studied in detail in order to come up with a path forward that can be really explained to the town.
All right.
I don't think we should get into a situation. I mean, we could, as the Board of Finance, we have line item authority on the general government budget. So we can, and some towns do this, by the way. Some towns vote on every single line item in that general government budget. I don't think we want to go there. And
We've never resorted to that.
Right, right. I don't think we want to go there. And I do not want to necessarily see us get to a point where we're pulling out the fire department and voting for that. And, that I think it's part of the general government budget. So I'd like to see it stay that way. Yeah, go ahead, Catherine.
I don't want to have anybody pitting the fire department against anything else in town.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that's a good
They
point.
live here. Well, that would just be awful. We've had situations where they pitted the school against the general government. We should be beyond that.
Yes.
I agree. I wasn't clear on how that was. I just wasn't understanding the approach as has now been explained.
Right. And I think the approach is the Board of Selectmen kind of has the ball is in their court to look at this. Yeah. I know nobody wants the ball.
I will tell you
it's the opposite of basketball. Nobody wants the ball.
I do understand, and I agree. There has to be a good, solid plan. I think that the fire department has started something, and that's a good thing. And I'm glad that it got brought forward, because now my expectation is people are going to help us come up with what that plan needs to be. Okay, don't sit back and just complain. It's we need the help of everybody. So, especially people who know how to do this. The limiting them to cost CO COLA increase, I have a hard time with that, because I just think that's too stringent for what they need. So, but that is my opinion, and but definitely, holding off on the plan, making sure we do that right. Absolutely. You want to make a really good decision. I think also the public doesn't have the grasp of the issues that the fire department faces. And so it's got to be very frustrating for the fire department to be going, geez, we're trying to do something here, and to feel like, they're not being supported. On the other hand, they're taxpayers too. At least a number of them are. So.
So any other comments?
The only other comment I wanted to make is that I appreciate you actually doing the calculations that you do, because it does give us some kind of a framework to look at, as opposed to people going off with just some other idea in their head.
Mhm.
Good news or bad news, it doesn't matter. It's a matter of some kind of information that's put together in a cogent fashion. I do want to say that the prediction is that Region 19 was going to go up 6% or more for us, and they only went up, what, 4?
4, yeah.
And they may actually drop it down a little bit more.
Mhm.
A big difference from last year.
So I think, I think last year it came in at 9 at first. Yeah.
It came in at 11.2.
Right. Then ended at 9.
And down to 9.
Right. Okay, so I think it sounds like we're in a position where maybe at next week's meeting, we can have maybe some new numbers from the general government side.
Yeah.
And then we can take a look at what that would look like from a tax impact standpoint.
Right.
And then I think at that point, this board needs to take a hard look at what those numbers are and what we think we can realistically stand behind and move forward to a referendum. So I guess I'm trying to gently say, but just say, we need to put on our big boy and big girl pants next week and say whether we think these budgets are defendable and can go to referendum.
I just put on my mucking boots.
We need to give um, direction to these boards. If we do need to make cuts, they need to know sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
Or reductions, I should say, reductions.
My concern is that when I go back in, or when we go back in, we're going to have to do some increases in the energy areas, electricity, etc. So,
any other comments at this point? Okay, it is 10 o'clock, so.
And it's Friday night. So
it's Friday. Okay, so I think at this point we've gone through our agenda. Agenda items for next meeting, as discussed, we'll get a revised look at general government based on the conversation we had tonight around the fire department. And then we will.
Christina,
Yes, go ahead.
the fire department would like a spot on the next agenda on Thursday to be present to discuss the questions and present the answers.
What does that mean exactly?
We just want to be on the agenda so that somebody is there from the department that can talk to some of the questions that came up and give appropriate answers.
I mean, I guess I would assume that it's just like it was on the agenda tonight in the form of the general government budget. You want it as a separate agenda? I mean, it's fine. We can do that, but it's part of the general government budget. So
correct, but the board singled it out, so I think it's only fair that they have the opportunity to answer the questions one to one, rather than go through this chase of questions and answers.
Okay, it's fine with me. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that? Seems reasonable. Okay. And then I think we're gonna have on the agenda at the next meeting too, an in-depth conversation about the CNR fund and what needs and what level of transfer, if any, we want to pursue. And we'll probably I'll probably bring the public hearing notice to that meeting so we can approve that and get that queued up for when we go to public hearing, because we have to publicize that. Has to be done in advance. So yeah, are we any other comments? I do want to just bring up the school budget, Ashford School, because no, but we didn't really talk about that. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts or questions about that budget. We did do an exhaustive review of that at the last meeting, but does anybody have any thoughts about that one at this moment? Nope, it is 10 o'clock again. Okay. All right, so I think that's it in terms of agenda. Let's see. Remarks for the good of the board. Thank you, everybody. This was a long meeting. And it was I think challenging at times. And we're navigating difficult circumstances. The reval, to me, it just all revolves around this reval. It's brutal. And it's been a difficult factor in every community over the last few years that has dealt with it. And we have to really be thoughtful about it, because a lot of towns who have had a reval have had their budgets fail. And so I don't want to see that happen. And I want to do everything I can to put a budget forward that we can all stand behind and that we can all vote for. So that's my number one priority, while of course supporting our community and preserving everything that we love about our town. So it's a balance. for sure. So that's it from me, and thank you everybody for your efforts. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
I'll
moved.
move. Oh, I'll second.
Okay, wait, I don't know who said that. Keith Lipford.
Keith went
motion?
first.
Okay.
I'll second.
Keith made the motion and Pam Summers seconded. All in favor?
Night.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.
Have a good one.
Good night.
Night, guys.